I'm sitting in the room, and just before it starts, they go, Imran, we need you to go speak in another room. I said, what are you talking about? I flew here for this meeting. I want to hang out with my friends. They said, Imran, the speaker canceled. We need you to go speak at the other room. Can't you get somebody else? No. They want you. Okay. Sounds good to me. What are we talking about? I said as we're walking. The economic meltdown and how it's affected the global economy. What? You want me to what? I go in the room, there's 12 people in front of me, they're all in the boardroom waiting patiently for me to talk, and I gave the speech of a lifetime. I was like, the global economy? What? I was like, oh, you want to know how it affected the United States? Well, I was pulling everything out of my ass right then, right? And I was like, yeah. And then I got done, and I go back to the YPN meeting, and it's over. And I was like, that was a wasted trip. They had a YPN mixer that night. So I was still able to see my friends, and I went there. And I show up, and there are these people with blue shirts all over the place. And I said to myself, Cole Banker in the house. I was at another company. I wasn't at Cole Banker. Then I looked a little closer, and the shirt said Team Imran on it. And then I looked a little closer, and it had like a little fist, and it said Imran beats cancer. And there was a bunch of people wearing them, some that I was familiar knowing them, and some that I didn't. I didn't know what this was about. But see, what had happened was the global economy conversation that I had was not that. There were 12 people in a room watching me make a fool out of myself. While a friend of mine by the name of James Dwiggins created these shirts. And he'd sold them to people in the YPN room to raise money for me. So when I got there that night and I saw these blue shirts, this big, lanky, 6'7" dude shows up. We're in this medium-sized shirt, which was baggy on him. And he comes up with a sweaty wad of money, and he's crying. You see the tears in his eyes, and he says, Imran, please take this and do whatever you need to do with this. And he hands me $2,500. And I was going through the second, they were saying that my cancer was pre-existing. So he hands me this amount, and guess what that did while I was fighting? It paid for my first 11 chemo treatments. James Dwiggins, my friend, made that happen. And it helped me. And he doesn't ever, I don't even know if he's in this room. Sometimes he leaves when I do this speech, sometimes he doesn't. But whenever I talk about James and the cancer, I'm forever indebted to that guy. For the next 14 months, I went through treatment. Every Friday, I would start my chemo. And it felt sick every single time. It's like having the flu to where you can't get rid of it. I was in tubes. I was going through all kinds of medical issues. I could barely walk. My fingernails, even to this day, still show as black from my nails turning black. My hands turned black. I could barely walk. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't let anybody see how sick I was, or at least give the impression that I was dying. I had a good, positive attitude. I tried my best to be a good example. In fact, I didn't want to die with the stuff that I knew. I wanted to keep my legacy going, so I was the only person going through treatment, speaking on the road that I knew of in our industry. A guy going through Hodgkin's lymphoma who's getting chemo every Friday, on the road, on planes, on that. What are you doing? I'm doing what my dad couldn't. I'm bringing my knowledge to my people and making sure that my knowledge doesn't die with me. As I got sicker, I wore that freaking shirt every day. That shirt that James Wiggins made for me. Ben Andrews is in this room. I have a man crush on Ben. I apologize, Jessica. And Ben and I met. He's an incredible guy. If he ever wants to share his story, please listen. Incredible man. And he said to me when I went to the grand opening for Sean and Stacy in Bellingham, Washington, he says to me, Imran, what's your 5-year plan? And I said, Ben, I don't have one. And Ben says to me, Imran, you're a motivational speaker. Why don't you have a 5-year plan? How can you motivate others if you don't have a plan? And I said, Ben, the reason why I don't have a 5-year plan is because 5 years ago, I lived in Southern California, living life expecting a totally different result. And now I'm living back in Stockton, my hometown of the ghetto. But I love it, loyal to my soil. Ben, 5 years ago, there was not a company called NextHome that I'm a part of now, that's part of my family, that I love every single person at our company, and we fight for you every day. Ben, it didn't exist. And Ben, 5 years ago, I didn't know a woman that I was going to marry in October of 2018. Ben, the reason I don't have a 5-year plan is because I'm only worried about living today for today. Thank you.
My eyes are on the gray sky saying I don't want to come home tonight.